'Twas the night before hockey, and all through Baxter Rink, not a creature was mooing, not even a maverick. Clear plastic stockings were hung by the lockers with care, in hopes that a victory soon would be theirs. The players were resting all snug in their rooms, dreaming of scoring and butt-ending goons.
And Jason and I, sitting in front of his Mac, had just sat down to record a podcast recap. When on social media there arose such a twitter, we pulled out our phones to see why fans were so bitter. Away to the app we clicked in a dash, scrolled through the timeline, ready to bash. Dozens of comments, my mind starts to fade. So many fans are throwing out shade.
When what to my scrolling thumb did click, but Mike Gabnett and 6 players with sticks. With a power play and a forecheck so fluid and quick, I knew in a moment these were our long-lost Mavericks. More practiced than St. Cloud, these skaters they came, and whistled and hollered and called them by name. Now Mason, now Freddie, now Evan, now Tyler, on Steven, on Riley, on Timu and Tristan. To the top of the circle, to the offensive zone. Now skate away, put that puck home.
As passes are made before the hockey puck flies, when they get to the blue line and toss aside guys, so up to the net front our forwards they flew, with a line full of scorers and Wenninger too. And then out on Twitter I saw in a thread, the Mav fans all saying, these guys are not dead. As I looked to the ice and was searching for clues, on the bench Gab stood saying, we're not gonna lose. He was dressed in a suit from his head to his foot, and his pockets were all filled with kale and turnip root. A bundle of pucks he had hung on his back, and he looked like a salesman from the long-dormant Stick Shack.
His eyes, how they sparkled, his scowl so intense. Removing Dean Blaise now made complete and total sense. Gabs barked out orders like a crafty old pro, and did everything in his power to make our Mavs go. A wink of his eye and a nod of his head left fans soon to know there were good things ahead. The refs skated in and blew on their whistles. Gabs jumped off the bench like a laser-guided missile. We heard him exclaim as he walked off the ice, "Merry Christmas, Mav fans. We're still in this fight." Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another special Christmas edition of the Mavpuckcast with Jason
and Jon.
Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that little segment that we did, a nice thing that Jon put together.
Well, I thank you very much. I wrote that yesterday afternoon in the basement, total quiet. Got it done, and I got it done in like about a half an hour, so that was fun to do.
I'm impressed. It went from a random comment in a message string to, hey, look what we got.
That was your idea for sure. So yeah, it turned out really nice.
So a different way to start off the podcast, but we should probably get back to what we consider our norm and what are we drinking. And you've got something really special, I guess.
Yeah, I picked this up at IKEA when we were in St. Cloud a couple weeks ago for that series. This is the IKEA Swedish festive drink. It's called Vintersaga. And the bottle looks like it could either be a festive drink or something to polish your IKEA furniture with. And
from what I hear you say, it tastes a little bit like what you polish furniture with.
Oh, yeah. When I opened this up in your kitchen, when we were kids, we would sometimes get prescription cough syrup in those brown glass bottles that you'd have to keep refrigerated.
Right.
And the stuff would just taste like this horrible, bitter, cherry-ish concoction. And that's what this tastes. I mean, this tastes like cough syrup. So I don't know,
Yuck.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna go back and we're gonna see if we can get the jinx to work again. So I went out and did some running around and asking around and found Alaskan Brewery's White Ale.
Oh, nicely done.
So I figured since the Johnny Walker White worked against Arizona State, we're gonna hope that the Alaskan White works against Anchorage this weekend.
It's got a nice polar bear on there too, so it looks authentic.
Polar bear.
Yeah,
I'm holding it up to the microphone like the people could see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, look at it.
It's where we need our video show. Yeah.
Baby steps here.
That's
steps.
Right, baby. Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
So what? Now we got through that. What should we start with? I think we should talk about our little recruiting trip, right?
Yeah, we took a recruiting trip. We
all of like
all the way
Ralston.
down to Ralston, Nebraska, to watch the Omaha Lancers play the Muskegon Lumberjacks. And the reason you and I were interested in going, among other I'm on the fact that it was a week off from UNO hockey, and we had
And
the
it's
time to
hockey,
go
and
see
I'll
it.
go watch
Yeah,
anyone
we'll
that's
go watch
hockey.
any
So
hockey. Absolutely. It was an opportunity to see really three main recruits coming within the next couple
three that have
seasons.
signed, and then
Yeah.
one that was a verbal commit,
I
right?
don't I don't think McDonald I don't think Oliver McDonald from Muskegon has signed yet. I think
Oh,
he's just a verbal.
okay.
I'm not altogether sure that he's coming next year. I think he's a 2020 2021 recruit.
Well, the Muskegon website has him as a commit,
Oh,
so
do they? I mean, I knew
so
he
we'll see.
committed, but yeah, we'll see. I
It
wasn't
doesn't
sure.
say anything about what season, so maybe maybe you're right. Maybe he has a
Yeah, I can't.
2021, but we're at least we anticipate that we will see him
Yeah, I
in the
hope.
near future.
Oh, I hope. Yeah, I hope so. We see all three of these guys. So we saw three forwards from Muskegon: Nolan Sullivan, Brock Bremer, and Oliver McDonald. And then for the Lancers, we saw a guy who's a few years out. He's listed as a UNO commit named Cameron Berg,
Right?
and he's a forward too.
Yeah.
So we saw all three of those guys, and you and I were impressed with the Muskegon players.
Yeah, and I think for me particularly, Sullivan was the one that there were a lot of things that he did that I was really encouraged
Big,
by.
strong forward. He's the team's captain. The guy could win faceoffs. We
Yeah.
saw a lot of faceoffs right in front of where we were sitting.
Yeah, and it was interesting to me because they don't play on a line, but I had mentioned this to you when we watched them that I guess oftentimes their first penalty kill unit was Sullivan and Bremer. And so that was interesting because Bremer doesn't have size. Like he's a little guy.
He's a little guy. He
Think
reminds
yeah, you're going to say it, right?
Alex
Ortega.
Ortega, Alex Nikiforuk. He reminded me a lot of a guy named Rich Perslow who was here about 10 years ago who had been kind of an assist king when he was with the Des Moines Buccaneers before he came to UNO. He kind of reminds me of one of those kind of little crafty guys in the offensive zone that's going to put the puck where it needs to be for a teammate to pop it in the net. So I liked Brock Bremer a lot. He wasn't one of those big, tall forwards that you automatically look at and say, oh, he's going to be one of those NHL caliber guys.
Right.
He's a guy who could be really important for UNO over the course of the next 3 or 4 seasons.
He could provide some stability, especially if he can, produce some scoring stability over, 3 or 4 seasons and stuff, and that could be really good for our Mavs.
Oh, absolutely.
Sullivan, I don't know. I looked him up. I don't see anything that says that he's a recruit for an NHL team. He hasn't been drafted, so I'm assuming that we'll see when I guess probably U.S. college. Because he's Eden Prairie. So when the USCO puts out their draft recruit things, or when the combine and stuff comes, I mean, we'll see towards the end of the NHL season. That's
If
we'll
somebody
start to
picks
see
him up,
where he might land,
Yeah.
and is he going to go in a mid round or a late round? I don't think anyone that we saw is going to be first 3 rounders. I mean, they're good players. I
Right.
just don't see that level, that caliber of talent right now.
right?
But people always give me crap about saying things like that. I always point out that Gensel wasn't Gensel like a 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah, I
I
can't.
think the Pens took him in
Yep.
5th, if I remember right. So I'd have to go back and look. But so just
Well,
because you're not drafted in the top round doesn't really mean a whole lot.
And like you said, Ortega wasn't drafted.
Ortega wasn't
Yeah,
drafted.
sometimes those guys over the years have been, are among our most productive players on the roster. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see because obviously, during the Dean Blaze years, we had a number of forwards who were kind of who's who of draft picks, and so
Right.
we depended on those guys for a lot of our offensive production. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
How do
I mean,
we
no
get some of
one
these
no
guys
one's
in?
going to bring in 31st round picks.
Right.
Like you're just not going to claim
Exactly.
every one of them or anything like that from 3 years or anything.
We're going to
So it's
hope
just
that
not
these
gonna
guys are guys like Scott Parse and Bill Thomas from, back in the 06-07 time frame when,
happen.
they were guys who could.
Yeah, and I don't know that we really talked about this, but one of the things to remember is that if the current coach of Muskegon has the confidence to put Bremer and Sullivan out there on a penalty kill, which is a very key situation.
Yep.
And the guys work together pretty well because they had some offensive chances on the penalty kill, which is always encouraging.
Yep. Yeah, that team.
And they didn't score a power play. Omaha didn't score a power play goal against them all weekend because I went to Friday and Saturday. And so, yeah, I mean, those guys they're. I think they must have some chemistry between them, and so hopefully maybe they'll gel well on a line together when they come in, and you can have like a freshman line on a third line or something and get them some experience. And
here's the thing, that team, and I think you would agree with this, was a really good junior team top to bottom. I mean, they were a strong team, and so you put those two players, well, three if you count Oliver McDonald, on a different USHL team, they might be the top point producers on that roster. I mean, they're all three of those players are in the top 10. So
what do you think specifically about McDonald? Because we talked about Sullivan and Bremer and Bremer's size, but we didn't talk too much about McDonald and what we thought about his play.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't featured in the lineup the way the other two guys were. And so, but he did have a nice goal off of a Bremer assist on the Friday night game that I was at down at Ralston Arena. So I liked him. I thought he was a good looking player. I think he'll be good. I know he's, based on the biographical information I read on him, he's very excited to come to UNO. That was a team that he wanted to play for. So,
love to hear that.
Yeah,
that's always a good sign that they really want to be here. That it wasn't like they were second choice or something,
right? So,
and who knows? Maybe he's one of those. I've seen those players over the years that they score like 90% of their goals in one building or something. If Baxter could be his building, we'd be okay with that.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's always hard for me to tell, the transition from the USHL to college isn't always a 1-to-1 correlation. Sometimes you'll get guys who were awesome in the USHL who come to college who aren't as productive, and then sometimes you get guys who are just kind of diamonds in the rough out of that league who turn out to be fantastic.
Yeah. I thought he played tight games very well, and I think that could be very beneficial for UNO. He seemed to like the physicality. I think it's kind of odd that he scores his goal on Friday, but I would say that his Saturday game was better than his Friday game.
Right.
I don't know if he would say the same thing if he felt like he played better on Saturday, even though Muskegon ended up losing to the Lancers.
Wasn't that overtime. 1-0? I think you told me, wasn't that scoreless the whole game?
Scoreless the whole game. Yeah, and that's the thing. The Muskegon goaltender, I had read, most people were thinking that he'd probably be the top goaltender in the USHL coming in. A lot because of the team that's in front of him, and a lot because he's a talented player.
And this is the kid who's going to Western Michigan, isn't he?
Yeah, I can say he's made some life choices that I question. That one in particular, probably just that one. But he seems to play well, so maybe we can convince him to change his mind or something. I don't know.
And McDonald is listed by Elite Prospects as coming in fall of 2020. So
2020, okay, and that would make sense. He's a year younger than the other two.
Yeah, so we'll see how he does over the course of the next year. But I was impressed with the Muskegon Lumberjacks.
Yeah,
they were a good-looking junior organization.
They played a good system, and we'd said going in before the game even started. So one of the things to watch is what kind of system and what goals they have and how they play the game and stuff. Because when you get that many recruits coming from one team going to a college team, you start to kind of question are they doing something
system-wise that Gab and Nets
well,
and Noel Bernier and Paul Gerard are trying to do at UNO.
Right. So in theory, it'll be an easier transition if you play a similar style and things like that. I know NHL clubs and stuff have recommended some of their draft picks and stuff will go there, and sometimes you'll see, it used to be back in the day when the North Stars were up in Minnesota, you'd see a number of kids going to Michigan and playing there, and it's just because the system was very similar to the two-wing lock that the North Stars were running. And so, yeah, I think I think it's interesting to see how they play. It's in, and see, well, I wonder, is that what Gabinet's trying to do, with our current team, and is that, kind of his vision for the future? So don't know if it is, but it is a interesting insight.
Yeah, and Mav assistant Dave Noel Bernier was with the Muskegon Lumberjacks back in 2010. He was an assistant coach and assistant general manager. So he was there for a few years. So obviously he has a connection to that Muskegon franchise. So that'll be very cool. I'm excited to see these guys come in. I thought, like you, Nolan Sullivan was a solid presence on the ice. He looked like a guy who had leadership ability, which is something this team's going to need going forward.
Yeah, we talked about there was one point where they were getting set up for a face-off.
Yep.
I think, and I pointed out how he was going over to everyone on the ice, talking to them like, you go here, you do this. Yeah, I mean, he just seemed to really kind of command what happens on there, and that kind of leadership could be really good for our Mavs.
I think he'll be a really important player going forward. So, yeah, I'm excited about these guys. We'll have to get out and watch some more of these recruits in the next few months.
Yeah, as they come in through the Lancers, we'll keep an eye on the schedule and try to hit some more of those games. And it'll be a good thing to talk about on the podcast here is just when we get a chance to actually see some of these guys we know are planning on coming to Omaha. So
yep, for sure.
So I think we talked about that. I think all we have left to talk about is our match for this weekend, right?
Yeah, our match for this weekend, and we can kind of assess where our team is at this point.
Oh, yeah, we did want to talk about like the state of it's like our state of the team address.
Our state of the team address. So what do you think about us? I guess people considered the Christmas break here to be the end of the first half. In my mind, I always break up the season, before January 1st and then after January 1st, because January 1st is when kind of the meat of the conference schedule.
Yeah, for me, I'd break it after Anchorage just because you're kind of into the sled of NCHC games. Yep. So that seems to be more logical.
Usually what I do. That's usually what I do, yeah.
I know the students, they have a few weeks off and stuff, so that's kind of the big break. I'd say I am not surprised by where we are. Unfortunately, no. I didn't think we would be, great coming into the season.
Right.
I kind of hoped we'd be better than we are.
I felt like we would be like a middle of the road kind of 500 type team.
Yeah.
And obviously we're below that at this stage of the season. And it'll be interesting to see if they're able to pull things together and get things going in the second half.
Yeah, it's difficult being in the league that we're in because the hardest part of our schedule really is ahead of us, even as difficult of a schedule as we knew UNO had coming in.
Well, you look at January, we go to Denver.
Right.
We have North Dakota at home, and then we go to Duluth, correct?
Yes.
That is a tough stretch of games. Partly because UNO hasn't had a lot of success the last few seasons against Denver. Duluth is an awfully good team. We split against Duluth at the end of last season up in Duluth. I would say that North Dakota series is probably a big opportunity for us here at home. And so that'll let us kind of know that that 3 series sequence, those six games that we play, that'll really let us know where the team is.
It's hard because there's only one home series in January, so you're playing on the road.
Yep.
And it's North Dakota at home, which unfortunately we need our Maverick fans to really turn out in droves because it's kind of annoying when it seems more like a North Dakota home game than it does a UNO home game. Well,
they keep selling $5 tickets in the Upper Bowl, so it'll be interesting to see if they're doing that the weekend we play North Dakota or not. I haven't heard one way or the other whether they sold out single game tickets for that. So
I doubt it, but we'll see.
There's a guy in the Mavpuck Facebook group who is a North Dakota guy who has UNO season tickets.
Yeah, there's a few people I know that are North Dakota fans that are basically just they're Omaha fans in disguise until these games. So
Yeah.
they're nice people, but I don't know. I don't like them for 2 weekends for 2 weekends out of the year.
That is a bold move to buy season tickets for one series every year.
I'm sure they come to all the games. They like watching. It's kind of like North Dakota's my number one team and UNO is my number two, so they enjoy coming to all the UNO games. But it's like when UNO plays North Dakota, it's always
They're wearing their green and
Yeah.
black Sioux stuff.
I do always have a bit of a trouble for me personally, just when Denver plays UNO because I grew up following Denver. That was my team for so many years.
Oh,
So
I know we don't. And that was UNO's first sweep, by the way, was against Denver at the Civic Auditorium back in the fall of 1997.
why doesn't that surprise me?
Oh,
Oh,
it
it was
was-
97? Well, that's why.
Yeah.
We
Regardless,
sucked.
it was
Like everyone beat us that year.
that was awesome. Yeah, it was great. That was before they were these like maroon and goldish colors. So
Yeah, it was before Twas.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. So
Well,
that was
Zach,
that
you
was
really
a
turned that
great
program
moment
around.
for me as a UNO fan watching them, beat Denver, regardless of how down Denver was. But anyway, back to the task at hand. We're like meandering here. We kind of tie this into our state of the team talk here. The series upcoming against Alaska-Anchorage is really important. I mean, we would assume that this would be a series that they could sweep because Anchorage has won 2 games all season.
Yeah.
And
we've won 4.
right now,
So-
I will say that this team has played. Anchorage has played their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games on the road. And during that stretch, they were at Northern Michigan, at North Dakota, at Minnesota State Mankato, and they were at Bemidji State. And they split against Bemidji State in that most recent series.
Yeah, with a nice overtime goal.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a tough stretch
Well,
for anybody.
But you also look at their November series at North Dakota.
Right.
And that's the thing that gets me with Alaska is, I mean, if you go by the record, you think,
You think
we
they're-
should be better. We're
Right.
fairly evenly matched, but you would hope that UNO would find a way. But then you start looking at these things going, they're playing and they're competitive and they're not a pushover. This is not going to be a cakewalk of a weekend. I mean, North Dakota won 4-3 on their last game, 5-2 on their first game. So they held their own, with North Dakota. They didn't get completely walloped by Minnesota State.
Right.
Friday night's game, I think, part of it's just being tired. Earlier in the season, they had a really bad loss to Colorado College and then
they
bounced
won the
back
next
and
night,
beat them.
yeah.
So I don't think this is a team that, kind of like the Mavs, like I don't know that their record really reflects how difficult of a team they are to play against, and they came into NCHC teams and held their own,
Right.
at least for a game. So
Yep.
to get a sweep, I think means the Mavs need to come out of their break and be committed to the system and be smart, play well, play a hard fought game.
Yeah, they need to
Bury
be
their
they need to be
chances.
firing all cylinders, and it's important for the team if they can to get a couple wins in this series.
And I think that's kind of the state to go back to the state of the team. I think, looking at the outcomes and the expectations and what they need to do to put themselves in a position in the second half of the season, you have to play smart. These little mental mistakes and bad turnovers and things are just going to kill us, and we can't be
Right.
doing that. You get an opportunity to score, you have to take advantage of it. You get
Right.
a power play, you've got to be 100% when you have a 2-man advantage.
Yeah, and they've just got to continue to have positive results. It's one of those things where we've seen Maverick incarnations like this in the past, and you don't want it to be a situation where they struggle against Anchorage, and then you get into January and things are tough there. Because at some point, then your record and then the points you get in the conference race start to take their toll on team morale, and can we claw our way back? And at that point, then you start to wonder in February, March, does it become this sort of horrible self-fulfilling prophecy where things,
Well, and keep in mind, we had a better team that basically went 0 wins in the second half of the season and went from one of the top teams in the country to not making the
I remember that the
NCAA
first season
tournament,
of Baxter, the 2015-16 season, they were rolling. We looked like we were going to rattle off a 50-game winning streak at Baxter Arena at that point. It looked like it was going to be great early on in the season, and then the second half,
the wheels came off.
Things just fell apart, and so you never.
And the sad thing, like I said, the sad thing is I would say that was a better team. There was more talent on that team than there is now, and
just pointing to a guy like Jake Ginsel on that team.
There's Cooper was on that team, and so. I'm not sold that it doesn't become a train wreck if they don't see some positive results, and I think that starts with this weekend. I'm hoping that Gabs has been talking to the team and that these guys are committed to it and saying, look, we're not out of this.
Right.
As hard of a sled as we've had in the first half, you can go into the second half and really gain some ground pretty quickly if you start, sweeping Denver, splitting against Duluth, stealing a win in St. Cloud,
right,
against St. Cloud. You can jump up the standings pretty quick. And then,
right now things are pretty tight in the conference standings.
And then the way college hockey is, a way a lot of college sports are, oddly enough, the regular season kind of doesn't matter because every one of these teams is going to make the NCHC tournament. And if you can build yourself up to the point where you're playing your best hockey at the end of the season, you go into that tournament and you start surprising teams.
You can make a run in those.
It happens every year, these bubble teams that get knocked out because they don't perform in a tournament or because some team performed better, and now you've got a
exactly. We saw that
number
last
24
season.
Or something that wins their conference tournament.
Exactly.
And it's like,
no, we saw that last season to a certain extent in Hockey East. So it'll be really interesting to see. It's one of those things where you just don't know if the team is going to be able to consistently compete week in, week out once we hit that NCHC grind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we don't know yet because we haven't seen anything consistently in that regard. And so the Anchorage series, I think, is a really important opportunity for them to get a couple wins, 6 wins on the season at that point. And then anything can happen in
something to build
January,
off of going into Denver and
it'd be interesting to see when we haven't played. I mean, St. Cloud is the best team in the conference we played so far, and that was a rough series. So it'll be interesting once we get the rest of kind of the top tier teams in the conference.
But we seem to play better at Duluth than we do at St. Cloud.
Right.
Not 100% sure why, but it just seems like we do. I'm still all for.
We had success against North Dakota last season.
Yes.
In the second half.
Part of that is I really like this theory of like pull the rabbit out of your hat kind of thing, and you just like randomly put Alex Blankenberg in at North Dakota.
Right.
Because it's like he's a third string goaltender.
Yeah.
And then the other team's like, oh, we're gonna light this guy up. And then he pitches a shutout, and you're
well,
like,
I think part of it too is that his teamman's in front of him think, man, are they going to light this guy up? And I think it changes the way that they play.
Oh,
yeah.
The challenge is these guys got to play that way all the time. I don't care who your goaltender is. You have to always be like that. If you want to win this conference, you have to play like that, no matter who's in net.
Well, and that's the thing. You never know if I never know what's going on in the players' minds as the season progresses. I know they've got a lot of things going on. Obviously, besides hockey, you've got class. Some of these guys are thinking about going and playing, minor league hockey once the season's over.
Mm-hmm.
So that you always wonder how much that factors into their, mindset in the second half of the season. And if the team isn't, percolating and, kind of chugging along,
but
how will they do?
We used to tell the kids when I coached that it's your attitude is your responsibility. because I can do what I can to motivate you. I can try to get you to see the light and commit to the system, but ultimately it comes down to, are you willing to commit to this and put in the work, and have the right attitude? And I've heard Gavnet preach it. I know that he's big on that stuff, but he can preach till the cows come home, and he's still just talking to heifers. So
Oh yeah, it's the whole, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I know that they keep preaching it, and the guys keep saying, the team's starting to buy in. So it'll be interesting to see if everything kind of comes together. But we're facing an awful lot of good teams in this conference.
I think the other part of that too is not just what this series means for the team, but what this series means for the fans. Because I think that a split probably means that your fans are basically packed in the season, and you're going to struggle to sell tickets, and you're going to, there's a lot of snowballs that kind of come from that.
Sure.
People buy less beer, whereas that's kind of where you really make your money.
Yeah.
Concessions and stuff, things like that. That's
when you have fewer people there, fewer people going to games, those things definitely affect
so it can kind of be a bit of a snowball rolling down the hill kind of thing.
Sure, and people, and then it affects season ticket renewals and new season ticket holders buying seats. So
there's a lot of those like fringe things that you don't really think about. You kind of stay focused on what it means for the team and their record, and do they make playoffs, and do they make tournaments. But
you and I tend to talk a lot about that because obviously we come at this from the fan perspective, so we're thinking about the greater kind of business aspects, and marketing aspects of the team. It's harder to market a team that struggles than a team that has just come off a Frozen Four appearance.
And the flip side of that is that if the guys come out and really feel like they're making headway in the right direction, and this is their chance to prove it to the fans, and prove to the fans that they're not out of this, and they're willing to fight, and claw themselves back into contention, then we could see a sweep that involves like blowout win and solid play, and get the fans engaged and excited.
A team that the fans will really be able to rally around in the second half.
Yeah. So I think the majority of fans for any team don't want to come see their team lose. There's people like you and us that we'll be there no matter what.
We'll be at the arena regardless of how they do, but
I don't think that's the majority of the people that buy tickets.
No, there are an awful lot of casual fans, and I know a lot of casual fans who come to games.
That's okay. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No,
I'm fine with that. Not everyone can be, crazy ridiculous, right?
Right.
But as a program in general, I think they need to be mindful of, how do we keep the people that are committed?
You have to come up with to come up with ways to engage your fans and hook your fans besides just the win-loss tie totals at the end of the season, because there are going to be seasons when they struggle, and this is a season where they've struggled. Next season may be a season where they struggle, so it'll be very interesting from the business perspective how you keep fans engaged.
I had a sports marketing class, and the professor said the easiest thing to market is winning.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be an interesting game. Blow them out 10-1, and it's still the easiest thing in the world to market. But
yeah.
I mean, I like the close games. Honestly, Saturday's Muskegon Lancers game,
like a 0-0 game.
It was 0-0. I'm like, it was exciting for one goal, 16 seconds into overtime.
Right.
But,
So I know.
Predictions? Are you predicting?
Sixers?
Are you going? Should we move on to predictions, or did you have more?
No.
Okay. So predictions. Are you gonna? You want to take the first one? You want me to take the first one?
I'll take the first one.
Okay.
I'm predicting we sweep against Anchorage.
You're the epitome of optimism.
I am. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know. Again, we're still trying to get a big enough sample size. We've seen a lot this season. I mean, I'm still hopeful from back in November, I think, but it'll be interesting to see. It wouldn't surprise me based on if you look at it, like we were saying,
right?
If you look at Anchorage's the games that they played over the last month and a half, they played some really good teams, and they played them on the road.
Yeah. So you still have the question for Alaska of what team shows up and how are they going to play. It's been a long road haul for them. Are they ready for this, or is this kind of just the last game before we can get some home time? I think I will say a split.
Okay.
Only because I think the MO for them has seemed to be that they struggle that first game coming in. And I think UNO will be able to kind of capitalize on it.
Right.
And then it becomes the coin flip of the second game. Like, do we get a little bit cocky and arrogant and not committed to the system and playing the way we need to play, thinking... I think that's what happened with Colorado College is we won 10-1. We got these guys, no problem. And it's like, oh, we just lost.
Yeah. And
how'd that happen? Well, it happened because you thought you were going to win. And you didn't.
You got away from playing this kind of discipline game that you've been playing. And you didn't have any puck luck in front of the net. And so they kept it close and they took advantage of the opportunities. And UNO didn't take advantage.
Yep. So that worries me a little bit on the second game is that, we almost we do it to ourselves. Because I think that if I look at the teams, if I look at the talent that's on the teams and the system that they run, if I try to play this game, by the numbers, I think that UNO sweeps. But I just don't think that the numbers tell the story all the time. There's some commitment to this, that there's some personality and stuff that the guys have to have, and that's what concerns me for the second game.
Right.
So
it does, because they've been wildly inconsistent this season.
Right.
Even against teams that they come off that Arizona State sweep, and you think we've got Colorado College in the next week, and it's a team that we should, at home, presumably be able to sweep after having swept the number 16 team in the country. And we struggled against Colorado College, quite honestly, and we were lucky to get the tie with the shootout win in that series. So you could be very right about this series. It could end up being a split against Alaska-Anchorage, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm just going in. Well,
I think we both would like the sweep.
Yeah,
I would much prefer 2 10-1 wins, or
Well, and it's funky.
10-1 and 6-0. I would take any of those outcomes.
It's funky too, because it's not. It's a Saturday, Monday.
It is. I was going to say we do have to mention that before the podcast ends. So now seems to be a good time. But yes. And so it's a 7:00 start on Saturday.
Right.
That's game one.
And then game 2 is noon on New Year's Eve.
December
31st. That'll be weird. That noon game is going to be, because I've gone to watch UNO basketball games at Baxter Arena, but
it's always weird to me in the summertime when I go to a hockey game, like my own games.
Yeah.
And I'm like hauling my stuff in, and it's sunny out and like 60, and I'm done. And I'm walking out, and it's still sunny and 60.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't... Like, I'm okay going in when it's bright and going out when it's dark. I'm used to that. I'm used to it going in dark and out dark.
Right.
Because when you play men's hockey, you play at really weird hours. But, yeah, the whole, like, in and light and out in light still kind of throws me off every summer.
Yeah, has UNO had an afternoon game in recent years?
I can't remember.
It's been a long time.
I remember a couple 2:00 games.
Yeah.
There were a couple 2:00 games in the past, but
the very first season I remember UNO had Wisconsin in for one game. It was kind of cool because Wisconsin wore their special occasion Bucky jerseys, and we wore actually our red road uniforms at home for the first time, which was cool because we hadn't gotten to see those. But it was weird having that after. I mean, it was an afternoon game. It might have been a Sunday afternoon game. I can't remember, but it was weird, and it was like right around this time of year, if I recall correctly, that we had that. It was kind of fun on the one hand, but it was just a strange... You know what? I think it might have been... It could have been Super Bowl Sunday, actually, that we played. I can't remember.
Yeah, it
was weird. I'll have to... One. That sounds like something I should do a blog post on. There were a bunch of people wearing cheese heads there, so take that for what it's... That might have been the Super Bowl where the Packers played the Broncos.
Oh.
If that was the 97-98 season. Because, the Broncos won in the Super Bowl in 98 and 99.
Was it 98, 99? Yeah, because it was 96 that the Avs won, so it would have been
And they won those two back-to-back ones. They beat Which now we're getting into an National Football League discussion here, but
Yeah,
no, you and I would remember that. But yeah, it was a very, very interesting time. But yeah, a split could very well happen.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's in their hands at this point in time. We're just fans. We're gonna go enjoy ourselves, but
Hopefully the holiday break and getting to see their family and open some presents.
get
for 'em.
some get a break in there, get some rest in there, and
Yeah, and if any of them went to IKEA and got the Winter Saga Swedish festive drink, it'll either clear up their sinuses or put them in a holiday mood. So
All right, John. I think that's all we've got then
I think
for
it's
this
time to
episode,
wrap it
right?
up. And
So we'll be back. We'll be back actually a day. I assume we'll be back a day later this week since like we talked about it.
the game will be on a
Sunday,
Monday.
So
Yep, we'll be back a day later this week. And I guess I would say we wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
yes, and a happy holidays to all of our listeners.
And as I said before, if you, we encourage you to follow us on social media. You can find links to all of our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, on Mavpuck.com, and you can find back episodes of this podcast
on SoundCloud.
on SoundCloud.
And our new YouTube
Channel.
/ Mavpuckcast.
That's right. We finally got our custom domain, thanks you to the
Yes.
102 people who have subscribed. And all of those are embedded at Mavpuck.com, so you can go there, click, and listen to them all. Bang,
One-stop
bang,
shop.
bang. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, greatest gift for us, I guess. More listeners, right?
That's
We'd
right.
love to see that. So
Yep.
So if you have any questions, if anyone wants anything, wants to join the discussion or something, they can reach out to us on any of those, right?
Yep, any of those channels.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone.
Go Mavs.
Go Mavs.